Welcome to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages, with your host, Matthew Shipp. This is the podcast for all of those who are involved in the agriculture all the way to the distribution of beverages. And now your host, Matthew Shipp.
Hello and welcome to Harvest to Pour. I'm your host, Matthew Shipp, and today I am here with Damon, co-founder of Bottle Bank in Midtown Atlanta, Georgia. And Bottle Bank is a new and ambitious take on your traditional wine bar. And Damon, here, you're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about a lot of other things as well. But how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you today?
Doing awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what kind of inspired you to launch a Bottle Bank and create this new concept you have.
Yeah, so I was in corporate America for several years, enjoyed a very fruitful career in financial services, and was handling distribution for a Fortune 100 financial services company in the Southeast. And prior to that, I had my own advisory practice. So again, my background is in finance and sales and consulting. And, back in 2020, at the height of the pandemic, the world was quickly ending and we all were quarantined. And my company, like many, were kind of reevaluating, where they were in the big scheme of things, and decided to make some pretty significant changes in their distribution. And when everything was said and done, I ended up not having a seat at the table anymore. So I decided to take a little time off and decide what I wanted to do with the second half of my life. And, at that point, started to take meetings with recruiters and look at other similar opportunities in the financial services industry. And, realized pretty quickly that, I would have been energized and re-engaged for 18 months to 2 years, let's say, because it's a new company and a new story and new people and those sorts of things. But I realized that very quickly I would have found myself, where I was after 15 years with my prior company. And that was just, feeling a little restless and a little stagnant and a little bored. And so I just, again, thought about what I wanted to do. And I was, brought back to a conversation that I had had with myself a few years prior when I turned 40. I kind of, was trying to be reflective and thinking about, my life up to that point and what I really wanted to get out of the second half of my life. And, what I realized, Matt, was that it was actually a pretty simple answer. I thought about it and realized that, I just really wanted to drink well and eat well and travel well and spend time with people that I loved and cared about, who loved and cared about me. The very best moments of my life were centered around some combination of those things. And so I thought long and hard about that, and have been someone who's enjoyed wine passionately for several years. And so I started thinking about, this kind of hospitality concept and making wine the center of it, and, thinking about, different aspects of the traditional hospitality model. And, private clubs in Atlanta are kind of having their moment, and there was an aspect of that. So just started conceptualizing a lot of different aspects of, wine-centric hospitality and membership and wine storage and community and connectivity and like-minded individuals sharing a passion and all those kind of fundamental themes that Bottle Bank's built on. And it just kind of took off from there. So that was really the genesis of the idea. And here we are.
So in the beverages, why wine and a wine bank over, say, beer or bourbon?
Well, I think wine is so unique in that it is the connectivity that wine provides is just pretty amazing. It's like they say, Jesus turned water into wine. That's a pretty good start.
Pretty good start.
So I enjoy whiskey, and I enjoy bourbon and Scotch whiskey and those sorts of things as well, and a nice cocktail on a patio in the afternoon. But something about wine is just so connective, and the stories involved, the people involved. It's really just an amazing thing. And I think people have, more of an emotional connection to wine because every year wine is changing, and wine in many ways marks a moment in time. And unlike whiskey, which I have, buddies of mine who are big bourbon collectors, they hunt the unicorns, and by default, a bottle of whiskey is going to taste the same today as it did last year, as it will next year, as it will 5 years from now. That proprietary blend, that signature flavor, they shoot for that every time. And wine is very different. The 2012 tastes different than the 13, tastes different than the 14. And the 12 is going to be different 5 years from now than it will be 10 years from now. And so it's that ever changing, it's that evolution. And I think the ability to share that specific bottle at that specific moment in time with specific individuals and create that memory, create that experience. I just think there's nothing like it.
And you're the second person to mention that the wine is like a moment in time. How far back you go to. Now, all I know is if you open up a really old bottle of wine, the moment in time is very short before that oxidizes out. So
that's very true.
Interesting. Yeah. It's like, time is fleeting. It's a very interesting concept. Yeah. So as you were building this concept, you mentioned you kind of noticed the niche that Atlanta was having their kind of club moment. What else did you notice that you decided to, pull in I guess it's a club-based bottle bank is. But what were some of the, I guess, general challenges you ran into initially as you started to grow this concept?
Well, initially, right out of the gate, I think there were two things. One was, Atlanta is a, major metropolitan area, and it's very segmented in the sense that there's different neighborhoods that have their own unique vitality and their own unique personality. That's one of the wonderful things about Atlanta is, Midtown's different than Buckhead, which is different from Vinings, which is different from Alpharetta, which is different from Decatur. And depending on what you're kind of in the mood for, really can drive what part of the city you want to hang out in, which again is fantastic because it provides so many wonderful experiences and so much variety. So the first thing we had to really consider was, where in Atlanta do we want to put a bottle bank? And then once we decided on a location, finding the specific space was a challenge. It needed to be a certain size. It needed to have certain ingress and egress. It needed to be laid out in a certain way. We had several aspects of the business that we wanted to incorporate into the experience. So again, having the square footage, having the layout, having the ceiling heights, having the accessibility, all those things factored into the concept in general. And then of course, specifically, there's the economics of the deal when you're negotiating the lease with the landlord and, looking at those factors as well. All those are different deal to deal. So it took us a couple of years to really put together the location, the specific space, and the economics of the deal, and several, ups and downs, many challenges, so to speak, throughout that process. But overall, that was a pretty big challenge, much more so than we had originally anticipated.
So what was of those three? You said location, space, and economics. What was the most challenging factor that you had to get all three of those to align?
I would say the specific space. Deciding on a location, we had narrowed it down to a couple of options. We started off in one particular area of the city and got pretty far down the line, and then the market turned, so to speak, and it was part of a major redevelopment, and the landlord put that on ice, waiting for the market to turn, interest rates to come down, credit to loosen up, those sorts of things. And then we pivoted to another part of the city and very quickly realized that, what a happy accident, because the area in Midtown now, where we are in many ways, is just a better market than where we were prior. And then once we got into Midtown, Midtown has the highest density of any submarket in Atlanta. So the number of spaces available was pretty interesting. And we went through probably half a dozen. And again, finding the specific one in terms of layout, square footage, ceiling heights, accessibility, specific location, walkability, all those things factored into it. So, drilling that down was probably the most difficult.
Okay. So we're going to get into what I call my harvest to pour section of this interview. And typically, if I'm talking to a producer, I'm asking where are you sourcing your ingredients, how you make it uniquely yours, and the pour is typically the marketing. In your case, I kind of want to go into, we're going to flip it a little bit. I want to go into how you're making Bottle Bank unique among other wine bars. So what goes into the design and the environment? Then I want to go flip it and go back into sourcing. How do you find the right wines for this bank to attract those people and get back into the pour of the marketing, getting them in? So let's go back. That's a lot of questions. So let's go back to, what goes into designing this wine lounge and making it more unique than any typical traditional wine bar?
It's a great question. You use the word lounge, and that's a word that we try to use quite frequently. We knew early on we did not want to be a restaurant. We knew very on we did not want to be a wine bar. We wanted to be something a little more ambitious in nature. So we knew out of the gate we wanted to be wine centric. So, one of the big differences is we are not going to serve alcohol. We're not going to do craft cocktails. We're going to go very deep in our pursuit versus wide. So focusing exclusively on wine is pretty unique. The other thing too is the size of the space. When we are fully built out, we'll be between 9 and 10,000 square feet versus a traditional restaurant's going to be 3,500 to 4,500 square feet. So we're, 2 to 2.5 times the typical restaurant size. And then obviously a little wine cafe or a little wine bar can be even smaller than that. So the scale of the project is much, much larger. The actual setting itself, the experience. So if you think about a typical wine bar, you're going to walk in, you're going to have just that. You're going to have a bar. You're going to have some traditional bistro tables, some dining tables where people hang out and drink wine. Our experience is going to be a little bit different, going back to the lounge concept. We wanted to create an environment that really invited people to stay and hang out for a while and share a bottle and connect with new people and spend time with friends and entertain clients and really kind of deepen those relationships. So think about comfortable sofas and think about club chairs and, again, more of a living room type of environment than a traditional hospitality concept. In addition to that, we wanted to offer some pretty interesting aspects in terms of what wine lovers need and want. And, one of the challenges that wine lovers have is storage. Not only where do they store wine, but where do they drink it? So we said to ourselves very on, if we can create an environment where people can drink wine, why don't we also give them the ability to store wine in the premise and utilize a private wine vault, temperature controlled, have the ability to access their wines regardless of where they source them from, drink them in the lounge without paying a corkage fee. So that kind of shifted the focus into coming up with an elevated experience that members could enjoy. So we're open to the public, but we also have an optional membership program. So that semi-private club type of environment is pretty unique. Typically, a place is exclusively open to the public or it's exclusively open to members. So having the ability to have the elevated experience of private membership, but also enjoy the added social benefits of being open to the public, we think is a pretty interesting combination. And then to kind of finish the thought on the membership, as we build out those benefits, having an individual wine vault where you can store your wine. We added, 4 different tasting rooms with a chef's table and a private tasting counter. So we hired an executive chef to come on board. And although we're not in the restaurant business, Matt, what we wanted to do was provide our members with the ability to have customizable private dining experiences. So the ability to, say your anniversary's coming up or your birthday's coming up and you have these 3 bottles that's you've been keeping for 15 years to drink with your 10 closest friends, the ability to come in, sit down with our sommelier and our chef and say, hey, chef, we want to do a 6-course tasting menu. We want to pair it specifically with these wines. The ability to create that experience, have it in a beautiful private dining room, cooking classes back in the kitchen with the chef's table, a private members lounge, a wine club, a cheese club, just all sorts of fun things, again, to kind of create that community for wine lovers, just really a playground for wine
Yeah.
lovers. So that was the goal.
Sounds really, I mean, I really love the unique kind of micro communities you can create within that, and then just the whole community at once. I can even see just like some unique business deals being done at certain points in time with these private rooms and chefs. And yeah,
Precisely.
Okay,
That's our hope. Yeah.
and that's kind of your focus. That's kind of your persona you're after.
Correct. It's interesting when we thought about, the pour component, again, the marketing and the execution component, to use your theme here. We thought about, what kind of people would enjoy Bottle Bank, and then we created the experiences around that. So, we thought, hey, there's going to be some people that just want to come hang out in a beautiful environment with great energy. And wine just happens to be what's being served, Then you kind of ratchet it up and you look at a segment that we kind of refer to as the aspiring enthusiasts. So these are individuals that start drinking wine and they're kind of interested and say, you know what, this is pretty cool and pretty interesting. And I'm, would like to learn more about this. So these are individuals that are going to start buying wine and collecting wine and building a cellar. These are folks that are going to want to enjoy coming to wine dinners and coming to wine tastings and drinking different varietals. And again, just, broadening their knowledge and experience with wine. And then you've got that final sector. These are the folks that are, connoisseurs or collectors or hardcore wine drinkers that have been at it for a long time. And again, the ability to hang out with other like-minded individuals who share that passion and share bottles and come to wine dinners, and again, just have an environment, kind of a clubhouse where they can come and hang out with other people who enjoy a shared passion was really where we landed. So with that in mind, we thought about, the tasting rooms and the size of the lounge and the member only lounge, and being in Midtown, to your point, millions of square feet of Class A office towers. So the corporate client, entertaining and strengthening relationships and, building new relationships, again, all on the menu in terms of Bottle Bank as an environment.
And now a word from our sponsors. Exit 11 Coffee is there for your on-the-go lifestyle. With 8 convenient drive-through locations, they bring quality coffee to your car window. Need it sugar-free, dairy-free, or keto-friendly? At X11, you call the shots. They've got options for every diet and taste. The best part, every sip supports local farms and businesses. So swing by Exit 11 Coffee, where great taste meets small-town values without slowing you down. Hey, are you spinning your wheels trying to figure out what will really boost your business's bottom line? At Emberry Solutions, our Profit Priority Workshop is here to cut through the noise. We help you zero in on what truly matters, aligning your team, optimizing your processes, and magnifying your profits. Imagine your business running smoother than ever, with every decision and effort leading straight to increased profits. That's what focusing on the right priorities can do. Ready to boost your efficiency and profits? Visit Emberry Solutions and let's start making your business work smarter. At Emberry Solutions, we take your business from bottlenecks to breakthroughs. So did you have I didn't know you had a public as well. So is this kind of, you see each persona as sort of a tiered system, almost like a funnel? Some of these people are going to eventually want to buy into the membership, and some of them are going to eventually want to elevate the membership to the private rooms and so on and so forth.
Precisely. I think that's a great point. The public's going to come in, have a great experience, and see some of the other things that are happening and wonder, hey, what's that all about? And then to your point, that's kind of an entree into membership. And then you've got those that are members that, like to feel special and like to have that elevated experience. And so, one kind of feeds the other. But yes, I agree. There's going to be folks that are going to come in and experience Bottle Bank in one way, and then hopefully experience it in another way as time goes on.
Okay. And then I just want to dig just a little into that, how you decided, like when you were in the room with your co-founder, and I'm sure some other people, how did you generate the ideas to say, okay, we have all these things we could possibly do. Which ones are the ones we want to initially implement and why? like your services and your private and your chef?
It really was just the culmination of several brainstorming sessions.
Okay.
It was interesting. My business partner and best friend is new to wine,
Mhm.
has always enjoyed wine casually, but he's coming at it from a different angle.
Mhm.
Studying it, taking some online courses, with Court of Master Sommeliers, with WSET, taking more of an academic approach as he's learning it. I've been at it a little bit longer, so I kind of bring a little bit of different perspective as someone who's been in the wine game for several years. So I think his perspective, my perspective, we put a crackerjack team together of architects and interior designers and consultants that come from various aspects of hospitality. So there was the operational component of hospitality. There was the conceptual idea
Mhm.
that's generated from various steakhouses versus sushi restaurants versus
Okay.
bars, those sorts of things. So everybody
You
brought
pulled
different ideas to the
inspiration.
table,
Okay.
and I think one of the overriding themes was we always tried to think about what we were doing and why we were doing it from the guest's perspective.
Okay.
And in other words, what do we like to do,
Mhm.
and what are experiences that we've had that made an impression with us, and why did it make an impression,
Mhm.
and trying to incorporate those things into the discussion and ultimately into the experience that we provide has really been a fun exercise and has served us well up to this point.
All right. And now I know you guys are scheduled to open in 2025 in September or so. Is that kind of where you're
Yeah,
aiming?
late summer, early
Okay.
fall, correct.
All right. So this next question is going to be kind of funny then is at that point you open or how far out are you looking? Like, so where do you want to take this next once you launch?
That's a great question. It's one that we've kind of debated internally. First and foremost, the objective is to get this
Get
one
open.
up and going and successful. And then at
Hmm.
that point, hopefully that gives us options. And the first option is, this just becomes a wonderful lifestyle business. And we love what we
Hmm.
do. And we love hosting the city of Atlanta, in Atlanta being a dynamic international city, people coming in from all over the world, having the opportunity again to showcase Atlanta, to showcase what we do,
Hmm.
to bring in guest chefs from other wonderful restaurants, promote them, promote their restaurants. Again, just kind of create that culinary hub where
Hmm.
people want to come and hang out and experience things. And then the other option is to, shoot for the stars. If we wanted to scale the concept, and if it works well in Atlanta, in theory, it's going to work really well
There
in
you
other
go.
areas across the country. So at that point, it
Okay.
becomes a strategic decision of how fast do you grow,
Hmm.
and what cities do you grow in, and how do you tweak the specific business to
Hmm.
reflect the specific market that you've chosen to go into. So those are
Okay.
all, as we like to say, good problems to have, if you can
Yeah.
even call it a problem. So I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but we've
Okay.
certainly considered both options.
So another quick branding sort of marketing question. Bottle Bank is straightforward, but I'm sure there was a lot that went into thought of why you're calling it Bottle Bank versus something else more like luxurious or so. Take us behind that of why Bottle Bank the name.
Well, it's interesting. When we first started conceptualizing it really was more storage based.
Okay.
We had looked at wine storage as a business
Hmm.
and really liked it. And at first, it was primarily a storage business that was supported by a hospitality concept. And
Hmm.
then as the model evolved, it became more of a hospitality concept with a storage component. So
Hmm.
the name Bottle Bank was actually kind of a play on the concept of storage when we were pretty
Okay.
early on in the process. And people liked it, and it was catchy, and
Yeah.
it stuck. And so it's still with us today. So a little bit different at the end of the road as it was the beginning, but still again that concept of strength and security and
Hmm.
the ability to store wine, and now in as we are now, this latest iteration, more importantly, the ability to experience it.
Yeah, like it's crystal clear what's going on here, and it's like, but then behind that curtain or behind the vault is all this else, the membership, the chefs, the storage. So it's kind of neat. I just liked it. I just wanted to kind of dive into that a little bit.
Thank you very much. We appreciate
Yeah.
that. That's great feedback.
So what advice would you give someone who wants to start something like this? Now you've pivoted, you said, from a financial career. So what's changed for you, and what have you learned, and what advice would you give to somebody trying to do the same thing or something with start a business within the beverage industry?
It's kind of a cliche. People say, follow your heart. They say, do something you're passionate about. I think there's a lot of truth to that, but I also think you have to, really think about your skill set, what you're good at. And then I also think, surrounding yourself with individuals that can really help you. They can give good advice. They can be honest with you. They can understand your skill set and also the areas that you need help with. And then creating that team around you to kind of fill in those gaps, I think is vitally important. It's something that I've always, in my prior career, I've always thought people are your best resource, and finding good people to lean on and collaborate with is always important. But going through this process, I was very fortunate to have a lot of other folks that I've known and met throughout the years that are very successful in various aspects of hospitality within Atlanta. That's one of the wonderful things about the hospitality industry. By nature, you're someone who likes to take care of people. You're someone who likes to service people. So their willingness to help and provide resources and provide advice has just been so incredibly overwhelming and appreciated. And, putting that team together to collaborate and inspire each other and, come up with ideas and mold those ideas and just make everything better as a result. That's advice I would really think long and hard about is, who you can bring into your life to help you along the journey, because it's not easy.
And have you felt the journey is a little bit longer than you anticipated, or is it kind of what you were expecting as far as like building Bottle Bank from concept to where you are now?
It's somewhat what I expected, but taken much longer than I had anticipated. Okay. Yeah. I think all of us realize that things just take longer.
Yeah.
But it's just never fast enough. And, my partner and I joke all the time, no one's ever going to take it as serious as you are. The sense of urgency, the sense of importance, and you just have to realize that, you're lucky if you can find other people that share the same passion and the same sense of urgency. But it's very, very difficult, not only in the planning phase, but, looking ahead to the actual execution phase, finding a team of servers, of managers, of sommeliers, of, kitchen folks again. And that's the job of a leader, is to inspire those individuals and have a bigger vision than, hey, we want to make a lot of money, and hey, we want to have a great life. And those are all great goals. But again, you have to be a part of something that's bigger than just that. And that's the job of a leader, is to create that vision, to articulate that vision, to lead that vision, and then hold everybody else accountable to that vision.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of my coaching sessions with some other business owners, I've often had to remind them that nobody is going to have your level of passion. The best you could, maybe your co-founder, but then you are, because this is your creation. So if somebody is 80% to your passion match, that's their 100% for you. And you almost have to kind of realize that based on who's working with you. So yeah, you want that passion in there, but if your expectations are set that they have to meet my passion for this at 100%, you're going to have problems. You're going to have struggles. And I think where you said you're going to leadership, hold accountability, but also stay with that reality makes for a better business relationship between employees and ownership.
Very true. That's such a good point. And as you said, with your background working with several different types of clients in the beverage industry, if you're if you're a brewmaster, if you're a winemaker, if you're a distiller, there's so much of yourself that goes into, that process and that end product. And I think the ability to communicate the emotional connection to those products is really what differentiates the best brands from those that struggle.
True. All right. So I got a couple more questions for you. And this one is kind of a fun one.
I love fun.
This is going to be fun. You've got a bank of bottles. Okay. And this is going to be a hard one now. So within Bottle Bank, and I know you're starting to gather and get everything ready. You haven't quite launched yet. And this is kind of a hard one because it's not let's say you're not a winery, but within that, what is your favorite beverage within the world of wine? And what is your favorite beverage when you're, out in the town and you're not drinking wine?
My favorite beverage within wine. The short answer to that is it depends where I'm at, who I'm with, what I'm doing.
All right.
It's a great thing about wine. Sometimes
I knew this would be a hard question. I'm like, it's like you got so much to pick from. Yeah. So
if I go back to, the stuff wines that I like to drink just instinctively. And then the other fascinating thing about wine is the more you drink it, the more you learn your palate, and that ebbs and flows. A classic example for me is, California Cabernet. I kind of have what I jokingly refer to as a Godfather 3 type of relationship with California Cab. Every time I think that I'm out, it pulls me back in. And, it's so big and it's so bold and it's so rich and it's so over extracted. Again, that's a massive generalization, but sometimes I'm in the mood for that. And then, 12, 18 months later, I'm just like, yeah, I'm over this. And I want something a little more elegant, a little more earthy, and, a little more restrained. And then I kind of go back to, man, I want something big and bold, and I'll go back to the Napa Cab. So there's always those fun evolutions, or you'll discover a varietal that's, Chardonnay is a great example. You look at New World Chardonnay, it's bigger, it's oakier, it's more vanilla versus, traditional Old World type of Chardonnay. And, I'm not a Chardonnay person. And you have one specific body, like, man, this is pretty good. And then you kind of have another, and now you're kind of on that train and exploring it and trying new things. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
That's cool.
And then outside of wine, I love Scotch. Ever since I was in my young 20s, again, I love Scotch whiskey and hanging out with my buddies and having a cigar. And when I'm out to dinner, having Scotch on the rocks, or if we're out and about, I drink Scotch almost exclusively.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks for that. And that's great. I like that. Some people I've actually had somebody say, outside of my beverage, I like water. I'm like, really? Okay.
I like water too.
I like water too.
But not in my whiskey, by the way.
Not in my whiskey. No. But we could go down the road with that too.
Yeah, sure.
So do you have now any upcoming promotions or events that are going to help promote the launch of Bottle Bank?
We will. Bottlebank.com is kind of the website that's going to have all the information. So we've got several fun events planned, leading up to the grand opening. There's going to be wine tastings and potentially some wine dinners. And we talked about doing hard hat parties. So once the space is demoed and construction's happening, cool. We're in the ground level of a Class A office tower with a beautiful lobby. So, having a wine tasting out in the lobby, having the ability to walk people, through the Bottle Bank space as it's being constructed. Those that are interested in, pre-sales for memberships that want to, get on the board prior, we've got some special surprises for those individuals that are looking to join the Bottle Bank community prior to opening. So again, all of that information, the launch information, the special events, the parties, all the fun things that are going to be happening over the next 8 to 12 months will all be announced on bottlebank.com.
This has been a great story. I really love this, how this has grown, this new concept. And yeah, that last part, there's all the things you have leading up to it. The links will be on the show notes and stuff, so they can find you. But yeah, how you've just kind of taken your venture from finance to this hospitality, this wine movement, noticing the need for this Bottle Bank in Midtown Atlanta, just based on like, hey, these private clubs are there's something, they're in their heyday right now. Where can we find a unique niche within that, which I think is really cool. And it's finding something you really enjoy. And you mentioned yourself having the skill set and the people and the patience to build something like this. And you're getting so close to this. I'm really look forward to the launch of Bottle Bank. This has been a really cool interview. I really want to thank you for your time, Damon, and how much you've put into this. And thank you for sharing all the pieces and parts behind this. I'm hoping, other people listen to this and gather where you've been and say, oh, I'm going that direction. Oh, he's already been there. Maybe I can, find out more about it, and just helping each other here at Harvest of Pour. So again, I want to thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to Bottle Bank opening up.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and we look forward to hosting you when you come down to Atlanta. So thanks for your time and your interest, Matt. We really appreciate it. And thank you for all that you do. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages with Matthew Shipp. Check the show notes for our guest contact information and connect with Matthew Shipp on LinkedIn today.